Hi and welcome back. Today this video is going to be about the China-US trade war again, as a lot has been going on. So earlier today, China retaliated even further against Trump's 145% tariff on goods imported to the US from China by putting 125% tariff on goods that are coming from the USA into China. But at that same time, China have also said there will be no further tariff increases. However, this actually really puts a stop to pretty much all trade between China and the US. But I see that China in a much more advantageous position than the US. And I've been posted on X all day, and I'm really quite shocked by how uninformed some Americans seem to be about China and what China supplies to the US. So you have many people saying, oh, we can do without all Chinese goods. Well, yeah, that's all well and good if it's like household goods, toasters, microwaves, certain electronic goods. But you've got to remember, the US is, or up until recently, the US's largest supplier of rare earth materials. It also supplies a lot of hospital and medical disposable equipment, other medical equipment. And it also supplies a lot of precursors for things like antibiotics, antidepressants, painkillers and things like that. And as well as finished goods that are sold in places like Walmart and Target, etc., it also supplies a lot of components. So let's say, for example, a car Ford are making, it might have, 5% of components that are made in China in it. Much of China's military equipment has Chinese parts. I think we had the CEO of Raytheon not so long ago saying that they couldn't manufacture their missiles if they didn't have the supply chains of China. So when these Americans think they can do without Chinese goods, I think they're very, very much deluded. There's a huge amount of goods, and I'm sure that some of the more goods that people really need, like the precursors to drugs, the rare metals, I suspect that American companies will have almost no alternative but to pay the tariffs on them. And this is a very different story to what China imports from the US. So the main imports of China from the US are energy and agricultural products, and some medical machinery and some other semiconductors. Well, semiconductors are already dealt with because there's lots of tariffs on those already. Not just tariffs, but sanctions. They're not allowed to buy them. But agricultural and beef and chicken and pork, it's all readily available from elsewhere. Like Brazil can easily supply more soybeans. Argentina and Uruguay can supply more beef. Russia can supply more grains. So I think it's going to be less of a problem for China to source this product than it is the US. Now, not only that today, but it's really not looking good for the US. The bond yields are spiking. So I think 10-year yields are at about 4.5%, and the 30-year yields are hitting almost 5%. And I guess Secretary Bessent won't be sleeping too well at the moment, because China have $36 trillion of debt, and about 9 trillion of that needs to be rolled over, and about 6 trillion needs to be rolled over by June this year. So unless the bond markets are brought under control, Americans will pay more to service the debt than they would have done, which will increase the spending, which will increase the deficit. And then furthermore than that, the dollar has started to lose a lot of value, especially against the Swiss franc and the euro today. So that again makes America's imports more expensive from many other countries around the world. So it's like a triple whammy. They've got tariffs, they've got the dollar devaluing, and they've got the rising of bond yields. And this is all going to push through to higher prices for American consumers. So for the things that are needed that America can't do without buying from China, you'll see prices rising. You know, most of those companies won't swallow that price, won't swallow that extra cost. They'll pass that on to consumers. And then you have things like toys, where, a vast amount of America's imports are from China on toys, as well as a lot of household goods. So I can see in the very near future, in the next 2 to 3 months, once the stockpiles are being run through, that US consumers will find many gaps on the shelves in a lot of the stores they go to. There will also be a lot of production that will need to be halted because they won't be able to finish, even though maybe 95% of the components for a product come from the US and made in the US. They won't be able to get at reasonable cost those extra 5 or 10% that come from China. And then I see a lot of people on X saying, oh, well, it's no problem. The US can just buy these things from somewhere else. Well, let's just take one of these items, rare earths. China control about 90% of the world market on most of those rare earths. And this is not something, it's not actually the discovery and the mining of the rare earths that are the important thing. It's the actual processing of the rare earths, which is the difficult bit. Now, I hear many people saying, oh, India can do this instead. Yes, they can. But do they have the technology? These kind of things, China has a lot of technology for rare earth processing. And also, these supply chains for rare earth processing will take years to build, even if there is the will to do so. So I think I just can't believe the stupidity of some of these people that I see comments on. I try to base my videos and I try to base my posts on X on data and facts, and I just can't believe how many people just have no idea how things work. And it really gives me the feeling that many Americans, I think, seem to think that China is a China of the 1970s, poor and underdeveloped. And the reality is China is much more sophisticated and technologically advanced in many areas than the US. Another thing, today Xi Jinping met with the president of Spain, and Xi Jinping stressed how important it is for China and the European Union to work together to push back against these unfair practices from the US. And also Xi Jinping has said that China will not back down from this provocation by the US. I think I see somebody, I think Besant in the US has already kind of issued a warning to the Spanish Prime Minister, saying that if they increase their trade with China, that they will incur more tariffs from the US on Spanish imported goods. And this again is just an example of how the US try to bully and coerce other countries. I really think that America has handed China a massive opportunity here, because all the things that China won't be buying from the US, it will be buying from other countries, which will increase the trade of those other countries, which will bring in more income so those countries can buy yet more goods from China. So the China trade with many other countries will increase while America continues to isolate itself. I think this is bad for the whole world economy. I think Trump and Xi Jinping need to get together. I can't see either of them picking up the phone to each other, but what I can see happening is probably an intermediary country negotiating a meeting, and hopefully we'll come out of this where they will agree some tariffs, but at a sort of much more reasonable level that both countries can deal with more easily. I mean, it's not to say that China are not going to have issues with some of this. They've obviously got to quickly replan where they buy massive amounts of product from. Energy and agriculture are the main ones. But like I say, I think it's much easier for China to do that than America to do that. But there will be exporters in China that had a lot of skin in the game in the American markets, who are going to have to recalibrate. But I think the government will be helping those traders. From what I understand, the government are already surveying companies 2 or 3 months ago here in China about their exports to the US. So I think the Chinese government anticipated what was coming. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. So please leave a comment down below. But as always, for now, take care.